YouTubers, space freaks, space geeks and paranoia police. Today we are looking at a number of pictures from the Curiosity rover and also the Opportunity rover, and I'm going to compare a couple of things that may have been run over by both of the rovers. But to start with, I'm going to show you something that came up on Mars magazine just yesterday, I think. In fact today, 6 hours ago. And this was brought to my attention by J. Kroll, who's posted this cool image here. This sort of montage of finds here, which look architectural. And this is from Sol 618. And I thought, wow, this looks really familiar. And I've already been through all these images a few times now. And I went back through them again recently, but I initially went through them the second time round in 2018 and 2017. And he posted this clip here, and it looks like a statue head, human-sized, very eroded, and parts of it broken off by the looks of it, like the nose is kind of broken off. And I managed to dig up this picture that I did a couple of years ago of it here, where I've done an enhancement, and you can see the nose is just kind of sheared off there, but you've got mouth and eye detail. But it's pretty crude and pretty, damaged, I would say. But that was interesting. Now, what I think this would have looked like, if it was intact, the nose probably would have been more prominent here. But that seems to have been broken off. And the head, which comes round, probably would have come round like this. So this part is sheared off and cracked completely off the side here. So this would have been a little bit more uniform. And the head would have come round like that with a slight point to it. But the chin detail is pretty good. The mouth detail is fairly clear, even though this is in shadow. It's a bit difficult when you're working in images where the sun is coming from behind or from almost completely behind like this, because a lot of details get kind of lost in the shadows. This is why it's important when you do gigapans or do these images to really brighten them up, because often you'll miss things that are in the shadows. But you've got this kind of really interesting eye detail here. Now, is it possible that this is a calcified person? Could it be? This eye here doesn't seem to have much detail really, but you can actually see what looks like some teeth here. Very vague. And the bottom lip is fairly prominent. This is a human. Unlike some of the reptilian looking things I've found recently, this looks like a human statue, or possibly a calcified, mummified and mineralized head preserved in the very strong bicarbonate minerals in the bottom of the lake in Gale Crater, which is where we are. Perhaps it is a preserved head. I don't think it is, but it might be. It's hard to say either way. Not really enough detail to say. One thing I would say, if this was carved, I would expect the eyes to be a lot more uniform than they are. They're not very uniform. But if this is a damaged statue, that could explain it. And I would also expect the nose to be a little bit more prominent, although a lot of the Martians did have very small noses, but some of them had very big ones, so that doesn't really tell us much. But the mouth detail was quite convincing, I thought. Quite interesting. Just there. The bottom lip is quite prominent. You can see that in the raw image there. It's a bit vague, of course, but it's all there. And if all you've got to do, like I've said 100 times before, is brighten the hell out of the image and add some contrast, and then these things will start to pop out. So that was interesting. There are a couple of other things in this area which I've got in my folder, but they're not very clear and inconclusive, I would say. There was this rather strange thing here which kind of looks odd, which looks like a bit of architecture or some kind of reinforced metal bar sticking up here. I've got an enhanced clip of that there. You can see this thing sticking up here. This could be some kind of metal bar or wreckage or part of something that's broken and just lying there and sticking up in a rather odd way there. Very strange. Don't know what it is, but it doesn't look like a rock. It's got texture to it. It's got a sort of almost chain-like texture to it. So it could be some of this reinforced metal material that you find inside some of these rocks, a lot of which are made of concrete, as I have shown many times before. This thing looks a bit like a head, but it's very vague, and there's almost no detail in it at all, really, enough to actually say either way whether it is or not. So that's pretty ambiguous. There was something interesting under one of these rocks here, which caught my eye because it has an eye just there. And this looks like it might be some kind of creature, like a lizard. But being in shadow under this rock, it's very hard to see. And when you brighten it up, like I've done here, you can just about make it out. There's a head here and a body here, but it almost looks like a little leg here sticking out, and another one here perhaps sticking out the back. But it's under a rock. It's very dark under there, but it's exactly the sort of place I would expect to see a lizard, if there were lizards, which there were. There's the head. This is a Sol 618 composite by Todd. Credit to Todd for this. Nice gigapan, nice and bright and clear. And here's that head, which is next to a bunch of rocks here. I'm going to zoom out so you know where to look. So links will be below for these images, so you can check these out yourself, take your own clips and do what you like. Right, so this is the gigapan I've done. I'm just going to show you that lizard, which is up here. So we've got the statue there, or head, or whatever you want to call it, and the lizard, possible lizard, is under this rocky outcrop here. Just there. There he is. And this is completely raw, and I've done nothing to this, and you can see that eye just there. If you look at my thing there, look, there he is. You can see an eye. Now this could be an amphibian, it could be a lizard, it could be something else. It may just be a strange rock with some kind of weird round thing stuck to it, like a little shell or seashell or some kind of little creature, who knows. Now this is one of the Rover wheels, and this is a very recent image taken only a few days ago on Sol 2732. In fact, there's a whole bunch of these showing how badly damaged the wheels are on the Rover. Not all of them are badly damaged. A few of them are, and a few of them aren't. In fact, we've got a whole set of them here. I'm going to flick through those for you very quickly, and you can see it's not in very good shape, but they're holding together. Now the Rover's been up there for 8 years, just under 8 years, and has been running over all sorts of rocks and sharp objects on the ground for all that time, slowly driving over things. The Rover is a robot, and it does have nav cams, and it does have a navigation system to avoid large objects, but it does run over lots of smaller objects on the ground, some of which are not just rock. Some of them are metal, reinforced metal bars and things like that, which are were inside the concrete on the ground, the constructed concrete remains of structures and buildings. Now that's why this has got these holes poked in it. See, this one doesn't look too bad. This one's okay. That part of that one isn't too bad, but this one, Jesus Christ. The thing is completely gone in the middle section here, absolutely poked through with loads of sharp objects have gone through it. It's pretty bad. How long can the Rover last? I would say it could still last another few years, because luckily it has 6 wheels. They have individual motors for each wheel, so if one of them completely fails, it can still move around. So it could effectively still probably operate on 4 of these wheels, perhaps even 3, depending on which ones went. But it could afford to lose 2 and still operate fairly efficiently. The weight problem might be an issue, because basically if 2 of them are out of action, then the weight distribution may go off a bit, and that could cause a few problems with motors perhaps. But the Rover is incredibly well and over-engineered really for the job, and has lasted very well indeed, way longer than they thought it would, and is nuclear powered. So those people that say that it's not on Mars and it's on Devon Island or in somewhere like that is nonsense. This thing is nuclear powered. It doesn't have batteries that need recharging. It probably does have onboard batteries, but it doesn't require sunlight to create the energy. It has a nuclear engine. Okay, so it uses radioisotopes to heat up the motor and provide power. So some of them are okay. I mean, this one looks pretty good. So that was interesting. Now, that brought to my attention some things that I published before of things that NASA have run over. Okay, that one's pretty bad, but so this one here isn't too bad. I think that's the other side of that one that's really badly broken. So they're not all terrible. So it's not in mortal danger, I would say. I would say it's got a good few years left in it. Let's hope it goes on for another 10 or 20 years, who knows. With a radio isotope power source like it has, it could effectively go on for many years. And it's really only the physical attributes like the wheels that will let it down eventually, or perhaps the hard drive or something that may go down like it has once or twice already. Okay. Now that brought to my attention this thing that I found years and years ago. Now this was published in 2015. I actually think the original of this was published in 2014, perhaps, years ago. Lizard run over by Mars rover. Now, this was something I found years ago, obviously, and this is from Sol 111. So it was taken a long time ago. We found so many things since then. I mean, it's just incredible. And you can see the rover tracks here. I'm just going to play this through. It's really short. I'll play it through and talk you through it. Now, pay attention to this here. We'll have a close-up coming up now. This is a lizard, or something similar. Now, unfortunately, this is a poor quality image. But you can see here, this creature. Now, this lizard I called Probo, because he has a proboscis type nose. So this is basically, you've got the head here, you've got a proboscis like nose or snout, probably an insect eating creature with perhaps a long tongue would come out of there and eat, perhaps it would eat termites or ants or something. So it looks like some kind of insect eating lizard or something very similar. You've got an arm here, another arm there, and legs here. And if I play this through, it will show you the foot, which is just here, which is broken off. Now, why is the foot broken off? There's the foot. The foot's broken off because the rover ran right over it. Now, I'm not saying this was alive when the rover ran over it. I think it was already dead and desiccated, dried out and mummified in the very sulfuric and salty sand in Gale Crater. But you can actually see in that video, if you watch it carefully, you can actually see the tracks right here. So literally the wheel went right over its back leg and broke his foot off, which is just here. So there we are. There's the foot at the bottom there, which I've highlighted. So that's one example of many, many examples that I have of things that have been run over by the rover. Usually it's just rocks, of course. And the rover isn't programmed to recognise small creatures and things lying on the ground like statues and artefacts. It's really a geological mission to analyse the geology of the rocks and determine the age of the rocks and the different types of rock, the different sedimentary layers and that kind of thing in Gale Crater. That's what it's there for. It's not there to recognise creatures or statues or anything else like that. That's why they don't report on it. It's beyond its mission remit. Okay, so let's crack on with it. Now, this isn't the only thing that's been run over by a rover, because we also have this. Now, this is another thing that was run over by one of the rovers, not the Curiosity rover, but one of the smaller rovers from much earlier on, the Spirit rover. Now, unfortunately, with this set of images here, the Spirit rover images are even poorer quality than the Rover, the Curiosity ones, and they've also been badly downsized and compressed. You can see all this distortion in here. But I do clean this up a bit in this image. This is a video called Mars Rover Runs Over Martian. Now this was 2018. Now I don't think it was me that spotted this, someone else did, and they sent it in to me, and I did a video on it. So I'm not claiming that I found this. There are details in the description about who found it. There's a little alien just here, that's the head, and you can see the nose, the eyes, and the mouth. Now you've got to blur it to get rid of the distortion, but it's there. And you can see the tracks just here. The tracks ran over this thing. Now this I also think was already on the ground and already dead, frozen and partially mummified on the ground before the rover ran over it. I'm not claiming that the rover ran over it and killed this thing, because the rovers just don't go very fast. They only do a very slow speed, probably something like usually 1 or 2 miles an hour, I think, most of the time. Let's go back a bit. This goes into a lot more detail, this video, about the surroundings and stuff, and you can see the tracks in the image. So I will put links to these videos at the end of this video for you to click on and check out. So there's actual evidence of people and creatures being run over on the surface of Mars by the Mars rovers. But they were probably already dead and preserved on the surface before they were run over. The rover just merely broke them up as it went over the wheels, okay? And you can actually see the tracks there, went right over this thing and broke it. And there are other parts to this this thing, okay? So, does it show them in the end there? I think you've really got to watch the whole video, really. There it is. This has got enhanced brightness. You can see that the solar panel there of the Spirit rover. You can see the head of that person. You can see the tracks coming across here where it's gone straight over it. And you can also see these parts here. These parts are the legs, I think, and parts of the body here. And you can even see in the sand, you can see what looks like a leg under the sand. And there's like a foot or hand. This may be an arm. So the rest of the body has all been kind of squashed and torn up, but a lot of it was probably buried. And as the rover drove along, the head was probably sticking out of the ground, and a lot of it was buried. As the rover drove along, it kind of tore it in half and exposed the upper part of the shoulder here and the head. I mean, this may have only been partly exposed before, but the rover came along and disturbed it, okay? So there we are. So we've got a person, a small person, very small person. This person would have only been about 1 foot tall, maybe 1.5 foot. Could be a young juvenile, who knows? But very interesting, this egg-headed person. But unfortunately, these images are very poor quality, and when you zoom in close to them, it's very hard to actually see what you're looking at. But there looks like another head here or something. So this may be a burial area or battlefield or something. Or these could be tsunami victims in this particular part of Mars. There was a tsunami on Mars, probably multiple ones, as well as a nuclear war and probably multiple volcanic eruptions causing mass death over the planet on multiple occasions. So there we are. So check those out. So Mars Rover Runs Over Martian. I'll put a link to that at the end. I'll put a link to this one as well. Lizard Run Over by Mars Rover. There's probably an earlier version of this video as well. This one is probably a re-upload. Who knows? I've uploaded so many videos now over the years that I've lost track of some of the things that I found. When you found like over 200 heads and statues and things like that, it gets to a point where it's hard to remember every single thing. And it's good when people upload stuff on Mars Magazine, because it often reminds me of something that I've forgotten about. And this is certainly one of those things. I think it did appear in a video a couple of years ago, but I'm not sure which one it's in. But this part of Gale Crater, Sol 618, is really interesting. And in fact, I've got another folder up here of Sol 619, which is right next to it, where there were loads of things that I found. like statues and stuff like this. I'll show you a couple of them now very quickly. These are right together. There's one lying on its side with nostrils and quite clear eyes and mouth. This looks like a statue that's broken. This one looks more like a mummified head with a very kind of shriveled up face and mouth. Very strange indeed. But this could also be carved. Who knows? It could just be very, very eroded. There's a whole bunch of other things here as well. There was this one. Some of these are clear, some of them not so clear. This is a not so clear one, but you've got a nose there and a mouth and an eye up here. Really, really odd, some of these things. So I'll put clips of some of these things in at the end, or I will link to the video of this as well. But this was one of the weirdest ones. Let me find the actual. Here we are. This is one of the weirdest heads ever found on Mars. If it is a head. Look at the shape of it. You've got the nose here and the mouth here, chin coming down here, the head coming up here. Now if this was a human head, this would probably come to about here. But it's got this great big long thing sticking out the back of it. What does that mean? Is that actually the skull? Or is it wearing, or supposed to be wearing some kind of strange headdress, like some of the other things I've shown recently? Who knows? But that was also quite ambiguous. In fact, I didn't do a brilliant job with these, some of these memes here, and they're not dark enough. So if I go a bit darker, we may be able to pick out some more detail there. Let's go a little bit darker, and you can actually see a nose here, eyebrows, eye, mouth, chin, and the head comes up to here. Now if this was a human head, it would probably come to about there. There's an ear here as well, but it doesn't. It goes right up here, which is ridiculously long, like some of those other statues that I showed recently with huge long parts to them sticking out, like almost like a column. Very interesting. There's this weird head here which looks to be like some kind of reptile or reptilian sort of turtle-like head. There's the eye, there's the beak. So it's a beaked creature, like some kind of reptilian or bird, perhaps a little dinosaur or something, who knows. There's loads of weird things. There's a shoe here lying on its front. There's the sole of the shoe's at the top there. There's the heel there, and there's the shoe coming round. Looks like it's been petrified. So some of these things may well be calcified actual people and remains, but a lot of these are probably actual carvings. There was also this pretty cool one here. Is that some fossils here? Now this looks pretty unremarkable, these C shapes here, but these are fossils. Mollusk shells that have eroded away, leaving a kind of light coloured C shape. Okay, these are definitely fossils. I sent this to the press, they wouldn't print it, of course. They wouldn't know a fossil if it fell on them. There's loads of weird things in here, so I'll link to this video. I did a video about all this at the end, and I'll link to those other things, those other videos, and I'll put a link to this that's is on Mars Magazine as well by J. Kroll. Thanks to J. Kroll for posting that. Interesting post, that one. There's some interesting architectural looking blocks and stuff in here that he's picked out as well, which are really cool. So that was interesting. Let's have a closer look at that. You've got some of these blocks which look very rectangular, some of them, and some of them are kind of like reinforced concrete, as I showed, with kind of metal sticking out and stuff like that. So interesting stuff. Then I'll put links to these images of the Rover wheels, which are pretty beat up, but not completely. How long will the Rover last? Leave comments below. How long do you think it can carry on with wheels in this state of repair, like that? I mean, that one looks really bad, but the others aren't so bad. I mean, they are designed to take a lot of damage, I think, but because they were built to save weight, they're pretty thin. The material that they're made of, so I think it's some kind of alloy. It's pretty thin and it's been punched through by all these things that they keep running over. Please like, share and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you soon.